Right, I think we're both in shot. Okay, so we thought we'd put this video together to help you with measurements. One of the things that we did on the last course, the little black dress, was I did all the measurements for the 15 girls. The problem with that is it tended to take 30 minutes or so to do all those measurements, which meant the last person was waiting for a long time, which is boring as hell. So what we're going to do this time is I'm going to teach you how to do measurements accurately to a standard that will be suitable for this course. And that way also you'll know that the measurements are accurate and real because you'll be doing them yourself. So you can trust each other to do these. And you know I'm not making stuff up. So I'm going to show you with Kat how we're going to do the measurements, and then hopefully you can do these periodically to measure your results. Because we'll only do this at the start and end of the process rather than doing it every time we meet. Okay? So the first thing we'll need to do is you'll need to make a list of the measurements that you'll do. So the first one we're going to do with Kat is going to be her biceps, so you'll need to write these down. We'll also do her chest, her waist, her stomach, her hips, the tops of her thighs, the middle of her thighs, and her calves. And obviously anywhere where she has a right and a left, we'll do both, just in case there's any differences. So the first thing you want to do with your partner is to measure their biceps. So just checking we still have Kat. Kat's the important one in this video, not necessarily me. We'll measure from where the armpit creases into the chest, all the way down to where the elbow folds. So there should usually just be a little crease here on the elbow. So for Kat, her forearm, it's not forearm, her upper arm, is about 22 centimetres long. So I'll look here at about 11 is the middle point. I'll say, Kat, just put your finger there. And now I know at that point, I can move around and we won't have lost the midpoint of that arm. Next thing I'll do is I'll take my tape measure, I'll come round, cover where Kat's finger was. I'll ask her to just place her hand down by her side and have her palm forwards and the arm just relaxed. We always do the arm relaxed just because when you tense the arm, there's the potential for you to tense it more or less. At least if it's relaxed, it's fairly consistent. And on here, we're looking at Kat being something like 27 centimetres on the bicep. So I won't read out all of Kat's measurements, just a couple, just so you get the idea. And that one I would write down as her right arm for 27 centimetres. Left arm is exactly the same, so I'll fly through this a little bit quickly, just because we are doing Kat's measurements as well, so we will need this data. Let me take your finger away from the Kat. Have your hand down by your side, palm forward. And lucky for Kat, she is symmetrical. I would have told them, would you mind? Okay, the next one's the chest. So with the chest, ideally you want your partner to help you out with this, so I'll say to Kat, can you just put that on your nipple line? So we want it directly on the middle of the chest. I'll come around the back, and Kat, I'm just going to turn you round so that the camera can see. That's perfect. Now raise your arms above your head, and just check for me, Kat, that that's still on your nipple line. Yeah. Yeah? Taking the measuring tape round, the first thing that I'll do, rather than take the reading, is just to check that the tape measure is actually level and that I haven't got it crooked. And then we can take the measurement right here and write that down. Perfect. The waist can be a little bit more tricky. Effectively, as we go through a weight loss program, the waist can move. Sometimes it's always going to stay the same place, but if you do lose quite a lot on this program, some of the girls may do, the waist can move. The way we're going to take it is always going to be the narrowest point of your body. So on Kat, it's really obvious. Also, I'll get Kat to do is just lift your arms up so I can see. And we can see here on Kat that this is the most narrow point of her. But we won't measure on the front, we'll measure on the back because it's it's usually a flatter surface, the back. There's no contours on the back of the body. So I'll just come round, check that my tape measure is level. And it's always worth looking around the front and the side just to make sure that that is the case. And then we can take that down, and we've got a pretty tiny waist here, about 29 inches, just over. Okay, some of you will be interested in what your waist size is, but a lot of you will also be interested in your stomach size. To a certain extent, the waist, especially on Kat, if I feel on Kat, I'm on her rib cage already. So her waist isn't going to get much smaller than 29, 28 inches. So we also want to take a look at the stomach measurement, which is right over where your belly button is, because you may lose weight from there, body fat from there. Same as the chest, I'll ask her to just place that exactly on her belly button. I'll come around for that and level. And I'm making sure I go over the obliques as well, and we don't end up going too high onto the waist. So you see there, I'm just coming up too high. That needs to go flat and level. Whatever horizontal is, that's where you'll take the measurement. We'll just check that is level. So you go just a little bit higher. Okay, so we've got a measurement there. For the hips, we want the widest part of the body. What I'm going to get Kat to do is stand with her legs together and just turn a little bit more side on. That's perfect. Okay. With the hips, we need to go right across the very middle of the backside. I hope it's recording. And I'll come just to the side so we can see. So as we do this measurement, again, it's important, just like everywhere else, that the tape measure is flat and level. So we can adjust this as necessary to make sure we have that. So it's important these measurements are accurate. You can't do these really too accurately. So take your time over these. Measurement there, that's good. Okay, tops of the thighs. Now, Kat's quite lucky. She has a particularly pert backside, which means that you can really see where the glutes finish and the hamstrings start. What I'm going to get Kat to do is just show you how you would measure this ordinarily, but for Kat we don't necessarily need to do this. Can you just place your hand directly underneath where your bum finishes? And the measurement that we would do would be where Kat's fingers are there. So it's directly underneath where the bum is. But Kat's lucky enough to not need to hold her backside up, so you can take your hand away. This is exactly where we're going to do the measurements. Again, checking it's flat and level. Especially on the inside of the thigh as well. Okay, perfect. It's your right, isn't it?
No. Oh yeah.
Lies. Just testing it. Is that your right now? Okay, turn this away for me, Ken. That's perfect. So you go right up to where what's called the gluteal fold is, take the measurement, and from there, we should see. Now, interesting enough, Kat has an asymmetry. Just don't move anything about your stance at the moment in her measurements. But what we can see is Kat is clearly standing on one leg and not the other. So just straighten up your body stance a little bit more so you stand on both legs at the same time. Okay. And we can take that measurement, which has removed a lot of that asymmetry that we had there. That said, if you do get a measurement where one side is a centimetre or two bigger than the other, don't worry. That's fairly normal. I myself have one calf smaller than the other. It's not a problem. It's quite normal actually. The middle of the thigh, you stand on one leg like a flamingo. You're measuring from where the hip creases to the tip of the knee. The cat's got quite long legs, so we're looking at 16 inches on the length of the femur. 8 would be the middle. So you'll place a finger there, just dab your toe down like you're dabbing it into water. All the weight should be on the other leg. So the measurement leg at the moment is completely relaxed, so we haven't got muscles tensing and popping out. We'll try and get this as level as possible around the back. Cover where the finger was and take the measurement right there. Great. And it's worth doing this on both sides, so don't assume that one side will be exactly the same length as the other. It should be in theory, but if Kat's posture is such that a hip is really hiked on one side, you don't want to be measuring a set set of centimetres down in case it gives you a false result. So we're always going to measure the actual femur, okay, just to make sure we're accurate. And toe down for me. And take your finger away. It's interesting. That's your good side. Okay, and last but not least is going to be the calves. The calves is really simple. You just find the widest part of the calves. So what I'm going to get Kat to do is just stand back slightly for me, just to about that. That's perfect. Now we can just see her calves. And what we're going to do is we'll measure in several points. So we'll take a reading quite high up, a little lower down. And what we're looking for is where the calves are at the widest. So you should see the number get from being a small number to a bigger number to a bigger number to a smaller number. It's at its peak that you take the measurement. Which we have on your right, so let's have a look at your left. So we can see the numbers, actually as I move down they're getting smaller, so I'm probably moving away from the peak. Yeah, so we know what that is. Okay, in addition to all these measurements, we're also going to take Kat's scale weight, so find out how much she weighs. I suggest you do this probably only once a fortnight, maybe once a month. And don't worry if your weight changes on a day-to-day basis. We eat between 3 and 5 pounds of food a day, so your weight can change. You're going to weigh differently in the morning. If you've had a day of particularly dense or heavy food, you'll weigh more. And especially because you're all ladies, depending where you are in your cycle, you're going to weigh more or less as well. So the weight is less important on a day-to-day basis. We're looking for a general trend for those who are after a weight loss of it going down. So we'll go and take Kat's weight. Hopefully you found this useful. If you have any questions, let us know. Thanks.